In computer graphics, an artist creates a scene that is given to a renderer to produce an image. Photorealistic rendering, however, is computationally expensive, so previous works have used image-to-image translation models based on neural networks to generate fast but approximate solutions. Unfortunately, these models cannot synthesize effects caused by objects outside the camera view. To overcome this problem, we utilize a neural scene representation proposed by Eslami and colleagues, which is input into the neural renderer to provide complementary information to the image buffers. We also investigate scenarios in which the neural renderer synthesizes only part of the final image, such as indirect illumination, and leaves the inexpensive direct illumination to the traditional renderer. Here we show results where the neural renderer infers all illumination, direct and indirect, from the G buffer and 3 observations of the scene. The results are temporarily stable, but certain visual effects, such as the shadows or reflections in the mirror, are synthesized with lower quality. The primary goal of our work is to improve the interpretability of the neural model such that these artifacts can be avoided. A typical neural scene representation is difficult to analyze due to its black box nature. We propose to adaptively partition the representation into lighting, geometry, and material components. Our method optimizes the partitioning during training to best distribute the bits of the representation between the 3 components. Here, we visualize how the partition sizes change during training with examples of generated images on the left. The model initially prioritizes lighting information due to its high impact on the loss, and thus the lighting partition grows. Once the lighting is roughly matched, the model focuses on extracting and utilizing material information. Lastly, we see a steady increase in the geometry partition as this information is vital for correctly synthesizing shadows. The adaptive partitioning also allows compressing the representation. We simply add a 4th, null partition that does not influence the neural renderer. We encourage growing this partition by adding a loss term that is proportional to the size of the other partitions. The hyperparameter beta controls the amount of compression. Here, we show images obtained from models trained with different values of beta. High values yield small neural representations, which, however, may not capture all relevant scene information. See, for instance, the teapot that has an incorrect color with the highest beta value. The compositionality of our representations permits high-level editing tasks, such as relighting. Here, we interpolate between the lighting partitions of 2 entirely different scenes and use the interpolated result as the lighting in another scene. Next, we analyze how the neural model functions. We first visualize the information that is used to encode the individual partitions of the neural representation for this particular scene. Then we refine the analysis by focusing on specific patches in the generated image. We attribute the activations in the scene representation to the color, position, and normal buffers of the 3 observations. For each buffer, we false color its pixel values multiplied by the gradients of activations in individual partitions of the neural representation. The 3 bottom rows show the false colored products for each of the partitions. Color hues were chosen arbitrarily, with yellow for the lighting component, blue for geometry, and red for materials. Bright colors indicate that the pixel had a large impact on the partition. The rows are normalized individually to emphasize the spatial differences within each buffer. If we remove the normalization, we can sum up the 3 rows to compute a single false color image for each buffer that demonstrates the relative impact of pixels on individual partitions. To better understand the model, we can focus on specific pixel patches in the generated image. This orange patch focuses on a reflection of the light fixture in the mirror. Since the G buffer does not contain information about reflected objects, the neural image generator must rely on the neural scene representation to synthesize the reflection. The false color attributions show that the model relies heavily on the first observation to capture the position of the light source. This patch is placed on a teapot that reflects large portions of the scene. The colors of the patch are attributed to all partitions of the representation, as reflections require all scene components. We also see that the generated colors are attributed to the material partition for the teapot. This is to be expected, as the material of the teapot is key for correctly predicting its appearance. This patch focuses on the material of the wall. We see high attributions through the lighting and material components. The lighting information is extracted primarily from pixels capturing the light fixture. Material information relevant for the patch is extracted from several different locations on the walls, likely because all our textures have repetitive patterns. The last patch shows the shadow boundary. To correctly synthesize the shadow, the model needs information about lighting and geometry. This explains the large attributions for these two partitions. There is very little attribution for the material partition, which is understandable, as all scenes in the dataset use the same material for the floor. The floor material is therefore baked into the neural image generator and does not need to be extracted from the observations. Let's again compare the attributions for all three observations with all buffers. For the shadow on the floor, here for the patch showing the textured wall only, the patch showing the glossy teapot, the reflection in the mirror on the wall, and finally for the entire neural scene representation. Thank you for watching.